Now, ahead of the Ukraine war completing 1 year on the 24th of February, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has delivered his annual State of the Nation address. The main focus of the speech, of course, was the war in Ukraine, the impact of sanctions on the Russian economy. Listen in to what Vladimir Putin had to say.
Те, кто планировали новую атаку на Донецк, на Донбасс, на Луганск, четко понимали, что следующая цель оказалось, что также пренебрежительно по-господски.
So the Russian president launched an all-out attack on the West, blaming them for the escalation of the Ukraine conflict. He also said that the West has in fact put the very existence of the Russian Federation at risk by trying to expand the NATO military alliance.
Элиты Запада не скрывают своей цели – нанести России, как они говорят, это прямая речь, стратегическое поражение России. Что это значит? Для нас что это такое? Это значит покончить с нами раз и навсегда. То есть они намерены перевести локальный конфликт в фазу глобального противостояния.
Putin lashed out at the West that he called their dictation of values. He also called out their superiority complex and this bad habit of looking down on other people. Vladimir Putin also had a lot to say about the sanctions imposed on Russia by the West. He said that the sanctions have in fact failed and are hurting the economies of the West.
Как я уже сказал, Запад развернул против нас не только военный, информационный, но и экономический фронт. Но нигде ничего не добился и не добьется. Более того, инициаторы санкций наказывают сами себя. Спровоцировали в собственных странах рост цен, потерю рабочих мест, закрытие предприятий, энергетический кризис. А своим гражданам говорят...
Now, Putin has also announced Moscow's suspension of its participation in the New START treaty, which of course is the last remaining of the arms treaty between the two big nuclear powers of the world.
Вынужден заявить сегодня о том, что Россия приостанавливает свое участие в договоре о стратегических наступательных вооружениях.
Meanwhile, the United States has described Vladimir Putin's accusations that Russia has been threatened by the West as nothing but an absurdity. The White House's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that no one is attacking Russia.
He reiterated America's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territory of EU members and key Indo-Pacific allies. The United States, as we have been for some time, is also prepared to...
All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what this address by Vladimir Putin, of course, means just before the Russia-Ukraine war completes its 1 year, we're being joined by Ksenia Kondratieva, who's in fact joining us live from Moscow at this point of time. She is a journalist, independent journalist who's based out of Russia. Now, Ms. Kondratieva, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on WION. Now, the big takeaway at this moment that a lot of people will be looking at very, very closely is the announcement that has been made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, where he said that Russia is now suspending cooperation on the New START treaty with the United States. What do you make of this? All right, we seem to have lost our line there with Ksenia Kondratieva. We'll try and get her back online with us. But this, of course, is the big announcement that's been made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, where in his address just before the Russia-Ukraine war completes 1 long year, on the 24th of February, Vladimir Putin said that the very existence of Russia is presently under threat by the West. He also said that the West has been hypocritical in trying to export its values. He also said that the sanctions that have been imposed by the West have been counterproductive and have actually hurt the Western economies more than they've hurt Russia. Vladimir Putin also went on to state that Russia at this point of time is united and Russia is committed, and he also went on to state that Moscow will prevail in this operation by the Russians in Ukraine. And at this point of time, we're being joined in by my colleague Anas Malik, who is presently in Kiev at this point of time. Anas, if you can hear me, the question that I want to ask you is, Vladimir Putin has just given his address just before the war completes 1 year. How has this been received within Ukraine?
Well, it is being taken with a lot of worry over here for the fact the last announcement that he's made of pulling out, the Russian president has made of pulling out of the START treaty for arms controls. That is a point of worry, particularly for Kyiv. Not just that, but in fact, when he said that he will continue and preemptively continue with the aggression or with the operation, as in his own words, with the special militarized operation, and then he went on to say or give a logic behind his move. That is going to cause some worry here in Kyiv, and rightly so, because at this point of time we've seen that the administration or the government, the Ukrainian government, has been asking its Western allies for support, both monetarily and in terms of weaponry, in order to build up its arsenal. And we've seen that they haven't really been getting much of that, except for that announcement yesterday by President Biden. That does come as a moral booster. Today we've got the Italian Prime Minister over here. I saw her just a short while back while she was exiting her vehicle. She's to meet President Zelensky amidst reports that Italy is willing to provide jets, but will not be the first one. They've been going around, the Ukrainian government has been going around and asking its Western allies to actively participate and provision them weapons that can be used in the longer run. In fact, yesterday, President Zelensky had asked President Biden for long-range weapons. That, in case if it is provided, that can be a game changer. But for now, that seems far from reality, and that is the reason we're seeing that Russia, when they attack or when they engage militarily, they end up using these long-range missiles or long-range weapons that cause more and more damage. Mostly to do is that with the civilian infrastructure, which of course the Russian side says that they are targeting military infrastructures that are located inside civilian infrastructures. Saleh?
Absolutely, indeed. Now, Anas, you've been tracking the developments that are unfolding at this moment in Kiev, and the question that I want to ask you is this. Now, with the Americans pumping in more weapons to Ukraine, and with the Russians being determined to carry on with their offensive, at this moment, it appears that despite the war having dragged on for 1 year, there is no possibility of peace or negotiations on the horizon.
There is no end in sight, you rightly mentioned. And in fact, yesterday's words by President Biden, where he said that the United States will continue to support, quote, as long as it takes, unquote. That is an indication that even the US side has come to terms with the fact that this conflict is not ending anytime soon. This war, this aggression, this invasion, or this special militarized operations, in whatever words you want to say, it is not ending anytime soon. The sufferers of it would of course be common Ukrainian people, those who've endured greater losses when it comes to the civilian side. Militarily, we've seen claims being made on both the sides, of course. But I think the other bigger worry is the fact that the Russian side is not also willing to stand down. But with the announcement by President Putin towards the end of his speech, of his almost 2 hours long speech, where he said that he's pulling out of the treaty, I think that would enable that would have somewhat of a ripple effect, not just here in Kyiv, but in Brussels, in Washington, in New York, and elsewhere in other big capitals of the world, where we would see that now would be the time of engaging an active diplomacy, even in London as well. And diplomacy is something that can really get things active, because these international powers would want to seek some sort of an assurance on the part of Russia that there would be no use of nuclear weapons, at least.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.